This is the Public Art Advisory Committee, Monday, September 26, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. This meeting is compliant with the Ralph M. Brown Act as amended by California Assembly Bill number 361, effective September 16, 2021, providing for a public health emergency exception to the standard teleconference rules required by the Brown Act. The purpose of this is to provide a safe environment for the public, staff, and the committee while allowing for public participation. The public may address the committee using exclusively remote public comment options. The committee may take action on any items listed on the agenda. To address the committee, the meeting will be an exclusively virtual meeting, and the public may either join this meeting or they may do remote public comments by emailing aibera@brisbaneca.org or texting 415-407-2675. Okay, let's do roll call. Councilmember Cunningham.
I am here.
Councilmember Davis is gone. Chair Davis.
Here.
Vice Chair Salmon.
Here.
Park and Recreation Commissioner Greenlee is absent. Park and Recreation Commissioner Tom Sewell.
Here.
And committee member Grossman is absent. Okay. And we'll have approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, great. Councilmember Cunningham,
Aye.
Chair Davis,
Aye.
Vice Chair Salmon,
Aye.
Park and Recreation Commissioner Sewell.
Aye.
Okay. And then this week I don't have any meeting minutes. So oh, I'm sorry. This is all Jeanette. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Okay. All right. So on presentations, discussion items, we're going to meet with Bridget Shearer, City of Belmont, to discuss the process of their public master plan. I believe the meeting is scheduled from 4:45 to 5:15. Is that correct, Angel?
That is correct.
So that's 30 minutes. We have 15 questions with 3 categories. So I guess what I'll do is when we start the meeting, ask if that's a hard cutoff for her, because that leaves 2 minutes a question. So if she has them, I'll remind her that that's the amount of time. So she just needs to be brief and concise so we can get that information. Unless she's, has a generous time schedule, we can continue up until, what do we want to say, 5:45? What's the hard cutoff?
Yeah. Yes, I
Or
would say
5:40?
5:45 so we can close it.
I mean, unless we need like at least 5 minutes to have a discussion of what else I don't know, what's the pleasure of the committee?
We have a meeting that starts at 6.
Right, so what's the hard cutoff with her? So we each have 5 minutes, we have 5 minutes at least as a group to quickly discuss how that went, or if there's more questions we wanted to talk about for tomorrow. Do you think we need that time or no? So the hard cutoff should be 5:45?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Because you have another meeting. Okay, so what's the pleasure of the committee? Would you like me to just go ahead and ask the questions that we have before us? Is that fine? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know that we have much time because of the 2 minutes per answer. So if you really must say something, please use a thumbs up, and got to make it real quick because we got to move on to the next question. Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else? Yes, no?
That was concise. That was good.
Okay, we got 3 minutes. Anybody else have additional comments?
This is exciting.
I have a comment. I know that we have 15 questions, but I'm wondering how the committee feels if we get into a question that becomes kind of needing more information, or something that kind of makes us want to ask an additional question. If the committee is okay with letting it go a little longer than 2 minutes.
Well, I think we have that flexibility. If she's available till 5:30, 5:45, then we definitely have it. I mean, I guess I'm fine with that. I think somebody needs to ask that question and then we have to, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I'll start off with that. But I'll start off when I introduce, I'll thank Bridget for coming. I'll say that, the committee has a number of, has 15 questions and maybe, I know we scheduled you for 30 minutes, but if you have more time than that, we would be very appreciative. If you don't have more time than that, can we reschedule for, for maybe some follow-up questions that we might have?
Okay, and then we can make note of that and then revisit that in more in depth. Does that make sense? Yes, okay.
Yeah, or she might even say, I've got a lot more information on that. Can I get it to you in writing? Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so maybe a commissioner, gives me a thumbs up or something and says, can we get more information on that? Or be really quick with your question and we got to see if she can try to be quick with that answer.
Can we try and do it through chat? So you can see the chat, Danette, you might be able to, there might be, Tom and I might have the same kind of questions. So we don't want to be taking up time if we can.
Well,
put it
where's
in
the chat? Where am I sitting?
Look on the
Chat's at the
bottom of your
bottom.
screen and it says chat.
Right, but Karen, just to let you know, when I
Yeah.
click on chat, the only person I see coming up is Angel.
It's Angel, yeah. Angel's the only one.
Oh,
She's got to unlock that feature, I think.
And I think it's because of the way we do it.
okay.
Chat's not even showing up on my screen when I hit it, so I'm an iPad, so don't know if my iPad can do that.
Okay, never mind.
Yep, okay. So I guess we'll keep on talking until she shows up, right? Is she hanging out in the waiting room? Yes?
She
Can't hear
just
you.
joined.
Okay,
All right,
perfect.
here we go. Welcome, Bridget.
Buddy, how
Hi.
are you?
Hi, Bridget. This is Stuart. We talked, or I emailed you about, and I talked with you briefly about what we're trying to do tonight.
Yep,
We really appreciate your time.
sure thing.
I think I sent you an email earlier today. There's a lot of questions that we have for you to try and figure out how we're going to go about doing our master plan.
Mhm.
We recognize that, you're very much at the very beginning of using your master plan and you just got it adopted. We fully understand that, but we really appreciate the time you're taking to help us figure out how we're going to do ours. What we're going to try and do to save some time tonight is to have Danette ask most of the questions,
Okay.
just so that way as we go through, it'll be a little bit more, it'll be smoother. But we were wondering if the 5:15 is a hard stop for you, if we
No.
possibly have more time that we can use.
That's fine.
Okay, just to let you know, our hard stop is 5:45. So if you need to get off before 5:45, let us know.
Okay,
But that will probably give us a little bit more time to maybe go in depth on some of the questions. And we really appreciate that.
yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, and then the only other thing is if we can't get through everything or if there's a follow-up, obviously we'll contact you again and try and figure out how do we best do that, because I think all of our goals is to try and get the best public art and the best policies that we can for
Yep.
all of our communities.
Yep, sounds good.
And it might be nice just to have everybody on the committee introduce themselves, because our committee is made up of council members, Parks and Recreation commissioners, and people from the public. So maybe if we just go having Danette, who's the chair, introduce herself and then have her introduce other people, and I can be quiet for most of this meeting.
Well, thank you, Bridget, for coming. We really appreciate your time and the information you can share with us. So it's going to be highly valuable to us as we are a new committee, just trying to get started with our master plan. And I'm Danette Davis, volunteer from the community. And am I introducing everyone, Stuart? Is that what you said? Everybody just, oh, I'll just let everybody, go ahead, Camille.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you just like call on people to introduce themselves, because that seems, the best way to do it.
I'm Camille, and I'm also from the community as a representative from the community.
Right.
Tom,
I'm Tom Sewell. I'm Park and Rec, and my wife is first grade teacher in Belmont. So yay.
All right.
Karen,
Hi, I'm Karen Cunningham. I'm on the Brisbane City Council. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure thing.
all right, so you
Real quick,
you have,
real quick. What is the name of the committee? What is your title?
Public Art Advisory Committee.
Ah, perfect. Okay, great. All right.
All right, and you have a list of questions in front of you?
I
by any
do.
chance?
Yep.
Okay, so there's 3 categories. There's roughly 15 questions. Originally it was going to be 2 minutes. So if we have till 5:45, we have, well, it's a little bit later that, but we have maximum 4 minutes. So if we could try to be quick, some committee members may raise a hand if they want clarification, but they know that everything must be brief, and we may just have to revisit this another time if it's more in depth. So we'll go ahead with the budget questions on how you determine the initial budget to do your project.
Okay, so just to give a little bit of context, we were planning to come up with a percent for art and development fee, because we have, as every city, getting a lot of development coming into the city. So we kind of looked in, what do we need to do to put that in place? We wanted to have a public art master plan so we could sort of justify this fee a little bit more and show the developers and the community what our vision was. So, and even before that, our council wanted to place art. Belmont is very proud of its arts legacy, and we've been talking about placemaking and all sorts of things. So because of that, I joined an organization called the Norcal Public Art Administrators Network, something like that, Norcal PAN. And if you're not part of that, somebody should join that, just kind of get on their mailing list and maybe participate in some of their meetings. That through that organization, I had some conversations with some other public art administrators from Palo Alto and San Jose, and they were very helpful in guiding us on an idea of right sizing the budget for the city of Belmont. So that's my answer there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on to the next question. Did you feel that the initial budget was accurate, and where were there different expenses that were unanticipated?
No, our budget was accurate for what we got. We got a very high level master plan. I don't know if you've looked at it online. It's very high level. We would have hoped to have done more community engagement, but I think that was in the time of COVID or I can't even remember. It's all a blur, right? The last 2.5 years are just a blur. So there's a lot of passion around art, but it's hard to get people to fill out surveys and, come to meetings and that sort of thing. So, but I think we did a good job, and I think our consultant helped us a lot. We got what we needed for $25,000.
Wow. Okay, that was going to be my next question. Okay. Quick question. It might be later on down the line. I'm just going to go off a little bit. How long did that process take?
Oh, that's a good question. I think maybe 9 or 10 months. I can't remember exactly. I'll check that.
Okay. And then were there any issues or snags in the contract that you wish you knew about beforehand?
No. We worked with somebody that so we did a call for proposals, but we ended up working with somebody who had been in this NorCal PAN network. A lot of cities knew her and her associate. And so we weren't asking for anything vastly different from what other cities ask for in this type of master plan. So I don't want to say it felt prescriptive. I think it was nicely, right-sized for Belmont. But no, we got, as I said, we got exactly what we needed. A plan with, here's the situation, here are some ideas to kind of stretch the community and thinking outside the box. We can, there could be more than just utility boxes in Belmont, right? That alone blew some people's mind and made some people very excited. And so we kind of showed, what are different, what are other cities our size doing out there across the country that inspired people. And that led to some, large, medium, and small projects and short-term and longer-term projects that we could do. And that's exactly what we needed.
Okay, thank you. And was there anything that you would add or delete from the initial contract to make a better end product?
That is a good question. No, I don't think so. I think, no.
Okay, this is not on the list, and since we're doing great in timing, I'm gonna, after I ask my question, if there's any other committee members that want to ask any questions regarding budget, I think this would be a great time since we're doing good. So my next question, not on the list, is how many public hearings and community engagement meetings, do you have any idea how many it took? And what format? Were they just meetings? Were they also at festivals and at like open air concerts in the park that you were, what ways did you get community engagement on how to come up with this plan?
You know, we did one in-person presentation to, we did it at the local library and kind of put it out to all of our artists. We have some little artist studios that we rent here in Belmont. And so we kind of have a good network of artists to reach out to, and reached out to the greater community. And we actually had a pretty good participation there at the library. So we gave a presentation there to the general community. Then, as I said, we did the survey. And other than that, we did presentations. I think we did a kickoff and then a final presentation at a Parks and Rec Commission, and similarly at City Council.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions regarding the budget from the committee members? Nope. Okay, moving right along. We will move on to the next topic, which is master plan. Under master plan, how did you and the consultant get the community involved? Well, we just asked that question.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So let me just, I'm just kind of looking back here at my files, and gosh darn it, if we started this in early 2020. So, you know, I would have loved to have done more outreach at concerts and you know, festivals and that sort of thing, but there wasn't anything. So there that is. So it's possible that now we didn't have a committee quite like you're putting together here to do that kind of outreach. So that would have been on me. So it may be that a budget, you might want to increase your budget a little bit if you would want the consultant to participate in that outreach.
Okay. All right. And then what worked and didn't work?
Now that I'm thinking about it, we're kind of getting some of the rust off here on this. We did a survey, and the consultant put together the survey questions. And then one component of the survey was we wanted the community to give us ideas for where they would like to see public art, right? Just to kind of get them engaged, right? It's kind of a fun exercise. And so the survey included a map where they could drop pins to locate things. That was honestly, I think, a little too complicated. And, you know, not everybody's tech savvy, you know, not everybody knows what it means to drop a pin, that kind of thing. So if you do a survey, an online survey, I would highly recommend keeping it much simpler than that. And then we also asked people, you know, submit an idea or a picture of some public art that you like. I don't think we really got anything substantive that way. I think showing people examples of things, you know, crazy to, you know, not so crazy, maybe on a spectrum, might work better. And just kind of ask people, you know, where do you, you know, which resonates to you, or put these in order of which you like them, or something like that. You know, keeping that survey under 2 minutes and simple would be the thing to do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, I already asked you how long it took. You said 9 to 10 months, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking back here. Our focus group announcement was, it's almost comical now to look back at this, January of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, February, we had our meeting on February 3rd at the library. Yeah, so.
Right before.
Right before life changed. Remember when we thought it was only going to be 2 weeks long? Oh, we'll be back in the summer, right? So, so anyway, so that I think impacted our process, but to be honest, I don't think it impacted our outcome.
Okay.
the goal was to come up with a plan. You know, a lot of times when you're doing these master plans, it's really kind of confirming what you all sort of already expect or presume. And I'm not saying I could have written this master plan without Barbara Goldstein's help. But the locations and the type of work and the timeline and all that were, you know, like I said, there wasn't anything crazy out there that was gonna, there wasn't anything controversial about it. Everybody in this community wants more, you know, yes, we want more art and we want it yesterday. So, and again, we wanted to be able to show developers, here we've got a plan. So you've got, you know, here's some ideas to maybe inspire you on your development site, or if you don't want to bother with it and you give us the in lieu % art fee, here are the kinds of things that we would apply it towards. And we are starting to get some money in. So it's, you know, that's the exciting part of this, right? The whole point was to get that % for art. And it, you know, was unanimously approved by council, and, you know, not a blip of opposition from developers. So I think it was money.
Okay. And so how and where did you advertise to try to find the consultant? You talked about that a little earlier, about that Norcal organization.
Yeah.
So did you put an RFP out initially? And then how did that work out?
We put out an RFP, so we put it out, or an RFQ, excuse me, and we posted it on our website. I sent it out to all of our artists, you know, our artist network here in Belmont, and then I put it out, sent it to the Norcal Pan administrator, who sent it out to their whole network. And on that network, there are art consultants and you know, folks that do this kind of work. And then I had a couple of one-on-one conversations with administrators from, I think, Walnut Creek, Palo Alto, and San Jose. And so I also asked them to forward it out.
Okay, and so based on that, you were able to get applicants, or how many applicants? Was it just one person, or did you get like a pool that you were able to interview and choose from?
Question. That is a good question. No, we got a couple. One. I see two here. We got one from the Barbara Goldstein, who we selected, and the other one was from the Fung Collaborative. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They've actually done some work with Burlingame and possibly Woodside as well. So,
Okay.
very interesting.
How do you spell that?
Fung, F-U-N-G.
Okay.
Fung Collaborative. They are very interesting, but we kind of needed a little more nuts and see, and if you will, a little more prescriptive. And that's where I think Barbara Goldstein was the right person for our work.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is, how do you find a consultant that is experienced without getting that cookie cutter master plan, one that will really delve into the community? So I guess maybe it's what about her? That's the one you chose, how did you come to the decision to choose that? Barbara Goldstein, is that, I'm sorry, that's
Barbara Goldstein and Associates, right? Yes. And, you know, she had the experience of also helping cities get to that % for art fee, and has a lot of experience with that. Was reassuring to us. So she is very familiar with the process for how to get there. I would say Fung Collaborative is more about doing great art. And we needed a little more of the process and the, I guess, you know, the comfort in knowing that she knew, you know, hey, some cities do 1%, some people do 1.5%, and here's the difference, and here are the pros and cons. And she had more of those sort of procedural alternatives and experience, and understood how that had changed over time as development was, you know, happening here on the peninsula. So that's why she was selected.
All right, so that ends our section for master
Camille
plan,
has
and
a-
I see that
Camille has a
Camille has
question.
questions. So if any other committee members after Camille have questions regarding these topics, raise your hand. So Camille and then Karen. Go ahead, Camille.
I have a question. It seems in your master plan, part of what you were putting in there was to get a developer fee into the master plan.
Correct.
For us, we already have that there.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, great.
So I guess my question is, how would you look at if you already had the percentage of what developers were paying
Mhm,
into your funding art source?
mhm.
Would you look at in terms of who you went out to get to help deal with the master plan?
That's a good question. I'll answer your question with a question. What are you doing now? When you get developer art dollars, what are you doing now with those dollars?
They're in a bank.
Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, cool. Gosh, okay. Then if you've already got that, I guess then I would consider given where I am now, right? I could say, okay, yeah, I could see maybe going a little crazy kind of and trying to stretch the community a little bit about what they might be able to expect. There's so many interesting and creative ways to incorporate art, and I think the community doesn't always know what those are, right? It's not just a statue or a mural, right? There are so many other ways to do that, and so if I were now looking for a consultant, I might, and kind of knowing what I know now and knowing we're just going through a citywide parks master plan. And so I've got all kinds of other ideas that I wasn't necessarily thinking about at that time, that could incorporate art a little more, I don't know, differently than what we would think is traditional. And I'm not saying that Barbara Goldstein was traditional or anything like that. Again, we were comforted by her depth of expertise. But now that we're 2.5 years later, yeah, I would consider other kinds of artists that had that maybe in their response to your proposal demonstrated a broader range of ideas about what art is. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Karen, good question.
I'm loving this conversation, by the way. Thanks. It's like, oh yeah, great. So one of the things that speaks to me, I'm very much a visual learner. So for me, it's like when I see it, I understand it. How many, or did you use lots of visuals in your outreach to the community? One of the things that we've discussed is having like a library that we can then put out to the community and say, look, these are all the things that we've all collected that we've seen around that we love. Did you do that? And how did you do that?
So we did
the response
again, because it was COVID, libraries were closed, right? I mean, and so we relied heavily on PowerPoint presentations, and I worked really hard with Barbara and her team to show as many examples as possible. So we have some presentations, and I'm happy to share them with you of different cities. Here's what this city did, and here's what that city did. The problem is, we're not Manhattan, right? We can't create the High Line, in Brisbane and Belmont, right? As much as, that's amazing, right? And I think it's important for the community to see those kinds of things, but then we need to sort of bring people back to reality and say, cities of our size, or with our, potential revenue dollars, while we can't create the High Line, we could use that idea somehow in some smaller things. So we made sure that some of the examples were also of cities of similar size, right? You can go to San Francisco or any city and be blown away by what they do. It's just not realistic to do that here. But could we create an art walk along our little creek Yeah. And could it have different pockets of seating that each have a different feel, like the High Line in Manhattan? Yeah. Could we envision, and we've got that example, actually, are starting to talk about that with a developer here in Belmont, to actually activate a piece of Belmont that has never been activated before, right? That's kind of that's the High Line. You're familiar with the High Line, right? I talked about it. You know, that's a High Line concept, right? Some, dead, above ground tracks are now this incredible public space. And that's kind of something that we never would have thought of here in Belmont. So I think that's good. But yes, we had a lot of pictures, and Karen, I think in the ideal world, rather than asking the community to send us those ideas in that survey, I think it would be great to have a binder or a visual slideshow of just one after another of, public art, and all different kinds of things, and how they've transformed cities. I just heard today, I guess, Gavin Newsom signed the bill that parking requirements are no longer required in developments near a transit corridor. Heard that on the way to work today. Just think about how that's going to change things, and how that's going to change space, and how space is used. Those are more opportunities for seating, or what, I don't know, whatever, the way we move in our communities. And I think we need to start to think about that. So yeah, I think that a catalog, and maybe let the community add to the catalog. But I think if you start it and maybe have a flip book or something like that on your project website or your outreach website, I think that would be awesome.
But thanks, because we've got so much open space, we've got so many possibilities, and it's like, okay, what, and one of our conversations is, how do we engage the public in the process?
Yeah.
And our community is small enough. It's only 4,500 people, 4,600 people. It's easy to engage, but if that, obviously if that works, we're going to be all over it.
Right. And I think it would be good to kind of categorize things, right? Some art you look at, some art you interact with, some of it you sit on, you don't even realize it's art, and you're sitting on it, that kind of thing. So, and some of it can change. All those things are, I don't know, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So great.
All right, thank you. One more question I had on this topic, Bridget, we were talking about, it was back to what Camille was saying. So since we already have the funding in place, it seems like the consultant you hired was to help you secure the funding. If you had already a means or method to secure developer fees, would you have looked for a different type of consultant that brought something? Were there other consultants that maybe would have been a better fit, that you didn't need that component done? Or that's what I was wondering, or a different type. I'm just like, without needing that part of it.
Yeah, right. I'm kind of rationalizing backwards with, why we chose Barbara. Again, I think she was a good fit for the city of Belmont. Would I now if I were to do it now, would I choose a different consultant? I don't know. I can't answer that. I think the other one that the other RFQ that we received was very interesting, but I'll just say I don't think it was the best fit for Belmont at the time, and I don't know if they would be the best fit now.
Okay.
So that's again, I don't want to diminish their work at all. They've done great work in Belmont and in Burlingame, and I think in Redwood City as well, and they're doing great things, but wasn't quite what we were looking for.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, we're doing pretty good. We're at 5:12. Before we move on to the next topic, any other questions from committee members or staff? Stuart? Angel? Okay. So we will move on to reflection. Well, we've been kind of talking about that. So what did you learn? What were the mistakes? And what made you excited that came out of the master plan?
It was exciting to have a roadmap for what we were going to do, because I think you also need to set expectations for your community that you're not going to transform into an outdoor museum overnight, right? That, you know, it's going to take a while to accumulate the dollars. It takes time to do this right. And you have a lot of different voices in, I mean, Belmont's 26,000 people, you're 4,500, but I'm sure there are 40, you know, maybe 4,100 different opinions about what is art and what do I like? And, you know, should it be contemporary? Should it be historical? All those sorts of things. Oh my gosh, I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh no, so it was a good roadmap for kind of setting those expectations yeah, telling us what our next steps need to be. And our next steps are still, unfortunately, to sort of finalize our guidelines for our developers, to kind of define the process for how do we implement something if we get dollars, right, in lieu dollars. What are we going to do? Our draft plan is that we're going to establish an ad hoc committee, not a permanent standing committee, but an ad hoc committee that will decide the location and the type of art that we're going to have. And then we would do a call for artists and that and evaluate it that way. Or if the developer's doing their art on site, right, they technically have free reign for what they do. Obviously, they want it to be successful and in keeping with, you know, with the look and feel of the community, right? Nobody wants to, you know, intentionally put up something that's going to offend their neighbors or the community. But, you know, what's the process for doing that? And when do they need to apply? And what are the rules for how much money they can spend on a consultant to advise them? All those things, we're kind of still dotting the I's and crossing the T's on that process.
Okay, thank you. Camille has a question regarding that.
Yeah, I do. I was interested, did you give the master plan to your developers? Wait, let me just backstep. In the master plan, I'm assuming, and I may be wrong, that not only was it a roadmap, but it gave a sort of roadmap in aesthetics.
Well,
No.
what do you mean? In sort of what type of
Well,
art we want?
I mean, I heard you talk earlier, was it contemporary, was it historical,
Right.
those kind of things. So I'm wondering in the master plan, if the master plan included those ideas, those concepts, or was it more open-ended conceptual? And if it did, was that given to developers?
So the developers are doing a really good job of on our website. So whether if our community development is giving it to them or directing them to it, I don't know. But if they're sort of early in the process of sort of trying to, you know, submit a proposal to the city, they have contacted me and said, hey, you know, you spearheaded the master plan, talk to us for a little bit. And we've had these kinds of conversations. We have not prescribed any kind of aesthetics to say, in this part of town, it has to be historical. In this part of town, it can be contemporary. Nothing like that, because, you know, it depends on the kind of dollars we're planning to spend somewhere and exactly where it is and, you know, what kind of art it is. So no, we have not done that.
That was thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I do have a question regarding the developer also. Does a developer have free reign, and are they required to have any, they just do what they want and then they just say, this is what we're doing? Is there any community engagement? Is there some kind of oversight committee to say, whoa, we can't have ABC here, that's not gonna work? So what are the guidelines for developers besides maybe a certain percentage of the dollars for their project? How do you kind of, what do you do with that?
That's a very good question. And we have not fully finalized that, but bottom line, if it's on their property, they technically have the right to do what they want.
Well, my question is that not something that was written in the master plan that the person you hired, is there anything in your document that helps you?
Not in the master plan. We're still refining exactly the document that we are ultimately going to give developers. But in the absence of that, and even with that, and I've had some discussions with with our city attorney about that. they can propose something and they need to propose something as part of their design. And if the planning commission doesn't like it, I'm sure there would be feedback about that. But we do not have, and if they want to consult with us and get our input, that's fine. But we don't have the right to tell them that the art that they're putting there is something we do or don't like.
Okay, one other question before we move on. You said you're
Right.
still finalizing the master
Yeah.
plan.
No,
So,
that's not the master plan. We're finalizing the developer guidelines
but
that talk
Are
about
you-
exactly this kind of thing.
so are you still working with Goldstein?
No.
Are you still working but that's not something you finalized with her? That's something she takes
No.
you to that point? No?
No.
Okay.
I guess, you know what, looking back, to be honest, I wish we would have, and that might have been something that, maybe you want to spend a few more dollars and get that kind of tied up in a tighter bow than we did. And because you already have your percent for art, you're good to go. We wanted to get that percent for art done so that it could be on our January 1, fee schedule, January 1 of 21. So we have kind of draft guidelines that we included in the plan, I think in their final plan report, but we have not finalized that yet.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
on
All
me.
right.
I'm behind schedule on that, so.
Okay.
you call me.
Next question under the reflection, would you change anything? I guess either on the document, or maybe you said maybe you would have worked more with her on that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. To really clearly define that, who is making the selection of your, of art that's coming onto city property, right? Who's deciding that? Our plan, because we don't expect it to happen often, right? It's not like we're not San Francisco, right? With, gazillions of dollars coming in every year. We're going to have little blips of money, and we want to be able to, amass enough so that we can have a robust thing. One of our visions is for a pretty large art piece at sort of one of the main gateways into the city. So that's going to be pretty significant. It's going to cost quite a bit of money. So we're sort of waiting for that to amass. Who's going to, the committee of people that are going to decide what that looks like can be very different than the committee of people that decide, what kind of artwork are we going to have in the, in the near a playground in the back of our park, right? Those are kind of two different scale projects. So that's the kind of thing we're working out. Who do we just select to be on the committee? Once we've figured out where's it going to go, what kind of medium is it? We want to, if we're talking about a sculpture, we want some kind of a sculptor to be part of that, right? Because I don't know how, how these kind of artworks have to be maintained and all that, do we have enough in our budget to maintain it for the 20 years or something like that, all that. We need somebody with expertise to come in and advise on those things. I can tell you what I like and don't like, but I think we need some actual functional expertise when we make those kind of decisions.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one quick question and then Camille. So my question is, you don't have an art committee right now? Is everything run through Park and Rec?
Everything's run through Park and Rec, right? And then we would sort of establish an ad hoc committee for that art project.
Okay, Camille, was that your question?
That was basically my question. We're a little different, and having said that, because we have an established public arts committee, and we have discussed, and it would be interesting to know if this is something that would go in the master plan, that and your feedback on that for each particular project, we would possibly look at an art consultant to run that, as well as having community members come onto the committee for those particular projects.
Yeah, you have to, right? If, depending on how you establish your committee, right, then it's a public meeting and you got Brown Act issues, yada, 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 yada. So you got to think about that. But yeah, I think an arts consultant is a helpful thing. I've worked with one who was coordinating, and here's the other thing. I'm sorry. You were asking me about the developer and what they were, do we have any say in what kind of art they have? And as I mentioned, so far, the developers that are doing any kind of art have all reached out to me to ask about, what do you think? And do you want to be on our selection committee as we select an artist? And here's what we're thinking and all that. So, we've kind of informally, been able to weigh in on things. Nothing's been too controversial. And again, it's in the developer's interest to not propose something outrageous that might offend, right? They're not in the business of doing that either, right? Whether it's a residential development or any kind of a commercial development, they're not trying to be provocative, right? They just want people to like their building and come and rent in it and live in it. So I think we're all on the same page there.
I do have a question about, you were talking about amassing a fund because you want to have a centerpiece at your gateway. Did that information come as a result of community engagement saying, what are your top topics? Was that like the top thing that the community said, we want to save the money so we can have a big bang for the buck in, coming from, off of blah, 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 as we enter the town? Or who came up with that idea?
Great question. The answer is no, that did not come from the community. That came from, before we had the public art master plan process, we had a placemaking committee. And that was city council members and some city staff, department heads that were trying to, trying to brand the city of Belmont, right? And so for a couple of years, there's been a placemaking committee, and that committee, one of their visions was to have a gateway piece as you're coming on Ralston off of 101, some kind of a signature piece. And that then led to a signage and wayfinding committee that is looking at branding our other gateways and other directional signage in Belmont. Our neighboring cities all have these things. Lots of cities do now. We don't yet. So that's what it came out of. That's where the gateway piece came out of.
Okay, one quick question on that. Since I don't believe, Karen, maybe your staff, you can correct me. I don't know that we've had a placemaking and a way making or whatever.
Wayfinding.
Wayfinding. I was trying to write it. My ink ran out, so I didn't get to write that word. But anyways, I don't think we've had that. So we're having a consultant and we don't have all that information to get to what are our top 10, where are they, what are they? And so we don't have that. As far as staff, correct me if I'm incorrect. I mean, we might have it for the city in general, but I don't think we have it specifically for art. So based on that, we need a consultant. Well, we have the developer fees down. We don't have all that information and input from the public. So,
and to be honest, the members of the public that participated in our focus group and in our placemaking presentations to council and all sorts of stuff and our survey, they might, and people who've read our master plan might know that our gateway component is sort of one of our priorities. But, to be honest, we didn't ask the community. And I think if you've got a community of 4,500, if I were sitting in your community now and knowing what I know now and that we're out of COVID, I would put up a big old map with dots about all the places you think art could go. Then you have this whole, catalog of possible art, and you ask the community what they want.
okay.
I think you've got a great opportunity to do that now. And now that we can gather publicly, you can imagine people putting dots all over things and voting that way. And I think that would be great.
Right.
That would provide a great visual that we did not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that would be something the consultant would do, right?
Yes.
I mean, they need to spirit. Yeah. Okay. Just checking.
Mhm.
Okay. So on to the next.
Can I sort of say, unlike Belmont, there are only a few places in Brisbane. It's all relative that public art can go. I think.
Right. And maybe you say, these are the top 5, right? And then, let's get these done first.
Well,
and then you can look
we
at
could
other
say
things.
this is the top 10 and probably
Right,
cover it.
exactly. Yeah. And you just say, maybe you want a signature piece in front of your city hall or at the entrance to the city or something like that. But yeah, I think, now that we're out of the pandemic, I think you've got a great opportunity to do that kind of outreach. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have 5:27. We have roughly a little bit more than 15 minutes. And we've got 3 more questions. So,
You are a good timekeeper. I'm gonna have
all
you.
right, just trying to keep on task here. Does the document still feel suited for today? Oh, we're gonna interview San Diego, so theirs is much older.
Oh, okay.
So yours isn't that old, so, I don't know, it's brand new for you, so.
Yeah. Yes, it's fine. It's fine for now.
Okay.
As I said, it's given us enough of a near-term roadmap as we start to collect these dollars. So yes.
Okay, quick question, kind of similar to that is since you have this document, what projects have you done? Have you done any with this new document since 2021? And with that, have you just used that document or have you, let's say you had a project, did you hire a consultant for that project? Like, let's say at a park or on Ralston or, something like that.
Mhm. The only thing we've done is unfortunately still kind of to the scale of utility boxes in that we have a new synthetic turf athletic field. It had been a natural grass athletic field, but we returfed it and synthetic turf and kind of spiffed the whole place up. And so we had some local artists do some murals on some of the light poles out there. And it's a fairly simple thing, but in fact, I was just out there today and thinking about the number of kids that see that art. They walk past. I mean, we have 100 kids out there, every night of the week. People are seeing that art. It's more visible than a whole lot of other things that might happen in town. So while it was extremely low budget, it was one of our low-hanging fruit near-term things, and I view it as a success. And we have a couple more light poles to do. So. And that was very well received by the community. And we got it done with local artists where we just paid them, for $250 or something, or maybe $500 for their materials. So it was an easy win.
So could you have done this project without having a master plan document, do you think? And was it managed through just you or did you get another committee? Like, how did you manage that particular project?
How did we manage that? We got the submissions and, you know what? We had our Parks and Rec commission. So because it was fairly simple and straightforward, yes, we could have done this without the public art master plan. In fact, we had done utility boxes. We have 8 utility boxes along Ralston, and we did that on our own within the Parks and Rec Commission before we had the master plan. So yes, we would have been capable of doing these light poles. We had and because we had the utility box expertise, we felt we could handle that with our Parks and Rec Commission subcommittee. And what was interesting there, we also had we have some youth commissioners on our Park and Rec Commission. And so because they use that field more than adults do, it was actually really nice to have some of their input. And there were actually some, I don't say potentially controversial comments. So I'll give you an example. This was during 2020. Think about what else is going on in the world in 2020. And on the light pole, the image is people in the stands, like the backs of their heads, and you see in sort of these word bubbles what the team was what the fans were cheering, what they were saying. And one of the bubbles had the phrase "back the blue," which in the whole George Floyd controversy could be, supporting the police. Not that I'm opposed to that or anything like that. What it actually meant was supporting the umpires. That I guess it's a phrase in baseball. I didn't know that, but it could have been interpreted differently. And so, so the commission actually went back to the artist and said, "Hey, this could be interpreted one way or the other. This is one we have say over. We don't want any controversy to, support or not support the police or anything like that. We don't want anybody to, deface this because of that comment. Would you consider rephrasing that bubble?" And they did. So that was successful, but no. So we did that one ourselves and did not have a consultant for that.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to the second to the last question, what piece of advice would you give?
Oh, that's a good question. what piece of advice would I give? I would say if you're going for, if you're looking beyond local artists, I do think there's an advantage to getting an art consultant. You know, they've got huge networks of people. And so these developers should engage someone so that they get broader reach. They know, I mean, you know, there's so many consultants, so many art consultants here in the Bay Area. And when I was privileged to be part on the committee for this local development that we did, it was really interesting to see some of the proposals from these different artists. And that was a nice broad reach. And the other thing is, you know, if you want good art, you got to pay for it. And, you know, we've done well with our kind of local artists, you know, gosh darn it, you know, I don't want to say we've nickel and dime them, but, you know, those artists spend a lot of time on the utility boxes or on these murals, and don't be shy about paying these artists for what they do.
It's nice to hear.
Thank you. I have one more question, but before that, how do you come up with what you pay your artists? How do you determine when you put a project out? Is it going to be $250 for a light post, or is it $500, or is it $1,000? How do you come up with this number?
I checked with the neighboring cities. Again, we did our utility boxes in 2018, and some communities do sort of a vinyl covering over their utility boxes, and other ones actually have them actually paint. And ours actually painted, and we pay them for the materials. But frankly, knowing what I know now, I would pay them more.
Thank you. And our final question is, would you hire the same consultant if you could do it again?
Would I hire the same consultant? Yes, I would. Would I? Yes, let me say this, for the scope of work that we needed, yes, I would. If you're asking me for a reference for Barbara Goldstein, I think I did more editing of the wording of things than I expected to be doing. So that would be my only con, I guess. And I think Barbara had an assistant doing a lot of the work and sort of drafting of the presentations, and I'm kind of a stickler for the wording and consistency and that sort of thing. And so I ended up having to do a little more of that for my own OCD standards. But other than that, it was fine. As again, I think Barbara brought, again, the depth of experience throughout the Bay Area, and I think in other parts of the country as well. And that's what we needed to make this. I mean, it was kind of a slam dunk because of her presentation and approach.
Okay, thank you, Tom. You have questions, and any other committee members? We have about 10 minutes. So gather your thoughts, any Camille or staff or Karen, but Tom, go ahead, and then Karen.
Thank you. Great stuff. Thank you so much. You mentioned low-hanging fruit, and you were able to do this kind of while the master plan has been, you know, in development. You know, we've been talking about, do we even do anything before the master plan's developed? Do you think we can go ahead and do a small low-hanging fruit project and learn from that while this is being built?
Oh yeah. You know, I don't know if any of you have been if any of you were in downtown San Mateo on B Street during the pandemic. They set up a community art project, and it was actually a couple of chalkboards, and each of the three sides of chalkboard, and at the top it had some kind of a statement, you know, I wish I could, whatever, and they let people just fill it in with art. I just didn't get around to doing that. And I thought, and when I saw that, I thought that was so beautiful. I mean, people were just, it was moving. It was just a simple chalkboard with chalk, and it let people express themselves. I think there's a great opportunity to do that. And what a perfect way to talk about low-hanging fruit, right? Do that, and sometimes staff it and engage with the community right there while they're doing art. You talk to them about the art plan. So yes, absolutely. If I could do it over again and we didn't have COVID, I would love to have done something like that. And that was actually part of our plan, I think, was we were going to do some kind of little art activities. We couldn't gather during 2020.
Boy, boy, I love your idea of, get the public involved with the small project.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fantastic. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, sure.
Karen?
Very similar comment to Tom. It's like, what's the saying? If you wait for perfection, it's never coming. So let's do some things in the interim. And
Mhm.
Tom, I know that Bridget was talking right up your alley when she talked about the turf on the soccer field. It's been a conversation here. We've got golfers that kind of
We could sideline that project.
soccer field, but maybe that's a conversation we could bring together. But love that idea of the chalkboard thing.
Yeah.
as
Well, I mean, it was just talk about one of the things I think in our master plan that we came up with was art in unexpected places, right? You don't necessarily think to see art at a sports field, but not everybody's an athlete, right? And all the little siblings that get dragged along to the brother's baseball game or whatever. Maybe there's an artist there, and what a great thing to see the art there. That was kind of the nice reaction we got to it. So
Or maybe we can put a chalkboard in the middle of the soccer field, Tom.
you don't know. You don't know.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah. The only other thing to caution you about, and this is what I learned something about, I'm far from an expert, but from participating in this Northern California Public Art Administrators Network, right? Larger cities have a dedicated person who is an artist or understands art administration. There is a lot to know about acquiring the art, installing the art, who owns the art, who maintains the art, how do you, at what point do you no longer maintain it, and at what point do you remove the art? And how do you do that with the artists knowing it or participating in it and all that? And that we have not had that issue, but for one small utility box drama, I'll stay away from. But no, actually, I'll give you the details in just a moment. I know we're running out of time. You need to have that stuff nailed down before you work with a serious artist. So that is probably where, especially the first time around, you have an art consultant that really works with you on that, because that, if you don't do that right, that can end up in litigation. So you need to be very careful about that. With our consultant and with our utility boxes, we had a contract that the artist signed that clearly stated that the art was ours, but there was some liability language in that contract that an artist agreed to in year one. And then in year two, when he was being asked to do a different type of work, he objected to the wording on the contract and therefore went back and painted over his original utility box without our permission. So we decided to let it go, but he basically defaced what had technically been city property and all that. So check your contracts before you do them. Again, I'm happy to send you our samples or whatever, but art and law are dicey things. So make sure you have your I's dotted and T's crossed with that before you move forward.
Great, thank you. Camille, and we have about 5 minutes.
Just quickly, we were talking contracts and the bewares. The bewares and all of that was not included in the master plan?
It was not, no.
Okay.
No.
But it could be.
It could be, yeah. I mean, that would be that if you want to look at a broader scope and say, hey, give us a good sample contract where you're just kind of filling in a couple things. I think that would actually be very smart to do. Now, again, this network is, this Norcal PAN network is very caring and sharing, just as we all are in cities, agencies, especially Parks and Rec. We always share everything. So I'm happy to share what I know. There are lots of examples out there of contracts, call for artists, all those things. They're out there, but yeah, I would.
Yeah, I wasn't considering necessarily the contract.
Yeah.
I was thinking more about in the master plan, and it's a discussion with the committee and the consultant in the master plan about who owns the art, how is it, those kind of broader issues as opposed to contract, or how long the art stays there. Is that part of something that would be considered? I have no answer to this.
I think that is, that's actually unique to each project.
okay.
And so you probably need to customize that for each
Okay, thank you.
one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got 3 minutes. Anybody have something they want to say quickly on the committee?
I just want to say thanks to everybody. This is a wonderful idea. And Bridget, kudos. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Taught us a lot, right?
Thank you. Thank you. I wish we were farther along with our efforts, but you know, we're small but mighty, but so is Brisbane. By the way, you have a Belmont resident as your Parks and Rec director. My colleague Noreen Leak is awesome. So
We love her. We
yeah,
love her.
yeah. If she's involved, you guys have already won the race. So
All right, well, thank you so much, Bridget, and staff. Do you have something you want to wrap it up, Stuart?
I just have one question. Bridget, did you have anybody from the business community as part of your stakeholders group, or working with the person with Barbara?
working with the consultant, good question. Gosh, I'm trying to think. We did reach out to folks. I can't remember what kind of, we probably had some one-on-one stakeholder things. And I think we talked with the, I know we had some conversation with the head of the Chamber of Commerce and the Belmont Chamber. And I know that she is an artist herself, and she participated in our one in-person focus group discussion at the library. So.
And then the other question is, how much money are you hoping to get into your fund, or how much money do you have in your fund at this point?
I think we have $150,000 now that we just got sometime in the last, I think earlier in this year.
Okay.
It's a fairly new deposit. But, you know, we also know that, right, there's, you know, Belmont, like Brisbane, you know, there's a finite area of opportunity for development, right? This is not going to be a continually renewing fund, right? So we expect we're going to get a bucket of money, and then the city's going to be built out, right?
Yeah, no, actually our bucket is going to be very large. We've got 550 acres of undeveloped land that's going to get developed.
Is that all down in that flat area?
Yep. Where the old
Oh.
landfill was and the old rail yard was, right bordering San Francisco. And we already have over $1 million in our fund, and we're going to get more.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So I think from the committee's perspective, that we may want to really think about how a broader scope of the master plan, and really focus on, you know, more of what Bridget was saying is like some of the extras that maybe we want to look at when we do our master plan.
Yeah, if you've got that money, if you've already got that money and more money is coming in, yeah, you want to dot some I's and cross some T's. So I may suggest, well, you're talking to San Diego, so you've got something, you know, Palo Alto has a lot of good documents on their website as well.
Okay.
And their public art administrator, if she's still there, her name was Elise DeMarzo, I believe. She was very helpful to us. She actually came to one of our placemaking meetings and talked to us about public art master plan and that sort of thing. So
I appreciate that. And Bridget, again, just thank you for your time. I know,
sure.
you know, I know we all like to help each other, and but we always appreciate when we do.
No worries. Happy to take the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, and then just to close ours out, I haven't received any public comments or anything like that. So I don't know if you guys want to chat for just a couple moments, otherwise you have to jump off and.
Do we transcribe these?
What's that?
No?
You can.
Do we transcribe these meetings? I just.
We do
found it-
not,
No.
but if it's on YouTube, I think you can click on something on YouTube where we get
Yeah.
it. So we can work. I mean, the problem with transcribing a meeting is the amount of time it would take us to put together what everybody said.
Yeah.
And
no, I get it.
even if we go through a software where you do that, it still will take us probably 5 to 10 hours to try and get the wording exactly right.
Clean it
It's
up.
more for
and-
personal use. You
So
know.
my question is, Angel, were you taking any notes?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Okay,
lots of
'cause
notes.
I have some notes. It looks like, Camille, I can't see you. You're behind the plant. Have notes? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Everyone's
good.
got
Everybody,
notes.
I've got notes. So I think for tomorrow, those who are here, if we can all take notes, because somebody might catch something, somebody might miss something. If we could just take notes and we can talk about this when we wrap it up. I know Camille has another meeting to attend. So at this point, are there any more, any comments from the public?
No comments from the public.
And Karen?
Stuart, would it be illegal for us to record it ourselves to take notes later? I mean, I'm worried.
Well,
about
the meeting is recorded.
Yeah.
So I mean, we
Oh.
have recorded the meeting.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
can rewatch it over and over again on YouTube and on our website when I post
All
it
right, got
tomorrow.
it, got it, got it, got it, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so no, it's
Okay.
not illegal for you to record it. We announced
Okay.
that we record it.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, oh, Camille? Go
She
ahead.
said bye-bye.
Yeah, I was gonna adjourn the meeting till tomorrow at 4:30.
Wonderful.
Okay, all right, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.